now it is my honor to welcome Rick Keller. Rick Keller served as a U.S. Congressman for 8 years. Today, Congressman Keller is an award-winning author, speaker, TV commentator, and attorney. His book, Chase the Bears, Little Things to Achieve Big Dreams, is a #1 Amazon bestseller. He is also a contributing author for 3 bestsellers in the Chicken Soup for the Soul Book series. Rick's TEDx talk on self-deprecating humor was the 6th most watched TEDx talk in the world in May 2022. And one of the favorite facts I read about Rick Keller that I thought was kind of brilliant that you share is that he was once fired from Wendy's. And I love that about you, Rick. I do. And now I welcome to the stage the Honorable Rick Keller. And now I'm going to hand over the conversation to Dick and Rick.
Dick and Rick show. You want to go first, please?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? First of
I
all,
want to know why you were fired.
what's that? Yeah. You know, since you mentioned that, I think I'm just going to cover that. You guys mind if I stand up here so I can see everyone? Thank you, Rachel. Let me just start off by telling you this. I am a lawyer and a politician. Now, what that means is that everything I say has to be the truth. I began my career at Wendy's. As mentioned, I was fired on the 3rd day. The manager said, "You just don't have what it takes to make it in fast food." What do you do when you're told that you're not good enough to work at a McDonald's or Wendy's? I felt like I only had one career option. I decided to become a United States congressman. When I filed my papers to run, I didn't have any rich friends or political connections. I never ran for office before. In my first race, someone who was running against me referred to me as an amateur. I said, I am an amateur. But it was amateurs who built Noah's Ark and professionals who built the Titanic. Unfortunately, my first campaign was more like the Titanic. I was failing by just about every objective criteria. I was losing by 27 points in the polls. I was out fundraised 4-1, and the leader of my own party asked me to drop out. I'm not saying that I was dead, but that kid from the movie Sixth Sense could see me at that time. Something unexpected happened. The phone in my law office rang, and I picked it up, and on the other end is this businessman from D.C. that I'd never met before, and he invited me to come to D.C. to go to this political fundraiser. So I go up there, and it's 16 congressional candidates. I'm the last guy to speak. And I say, guys, I've been in the back of the room for hours, and I feel like Elizabeth Taylor's 7th husband on his honeymoon night. I know what I'm supposed to do, but at this point, I don't know how to make it interesting. And they relaxed and laughed for the first time that day, and that little talk changed my life. That group ranked me #1 in the country. They spent $400,000 to support me, and a few months later, against all odds, I won a seat in the United States Congress. Thank you for both of you. I appreciate it. Now, I was surprised as you are. I did not even have a victory speech written. I only had one thought, and that was this. Screw you, Wendy's. You know, how you like me now? You know? So my first term, I'm a freshman. Nobody knows my name. Some guy comes up to me and goes, I know your face from somewhere. How do I know you? And I said, well, you know, I've been on America's Most Wanted a few times. No, man, that's not it. Are you a bartender at Big Daddy's? I said, no, I'm not. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm your congressman. Yes, yeah, looking good. You look fatter on TV, man. You look good. I'm like, thank you, I think, you know. Now I've been there about 4 or 5 years, been on TV a little bit more. My allegedly fat face has been on TV. Somebody comes up to me and says, yo, man, did people tell you a little bit look like that guy, Rick Keller? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I bet it makes you mad, don't it? I'm like, damn, it does, man. Now I'm in my 8th and last year. They put my picture in the paper. Some critic sees it and decides to write me a nasty note. Dear Rick, saw your picture in the paper. You think you can serve our country? You can't even serve French fries. I wrote back, said 3 words. Shut up, Mom, shut up. Now, the reason I tell you this story by way of background is because I was a Republican member of Congress in Washington focusing on primarily a Democratic issue, increasing Pell Grants to help poor kids go to college. And so I had no choice to be successful. I had to be bipartisan. I had to be civil. I had to be vulnerable and authentic and not take myself too seriously. And what I learned from that 8-year experience, I can summarize in 2 words: disagree better. The key to bringing us together is not disagreeing less, it's disagreeing better. And so I want to talk a little bit about civility today. And I think civility is the #1 root problem in America right now. 93% of the American public says that the erosion of civility is a problem. 85% say it's worse now than it was 10 years ago. Now, Dick and I have both written books on civility. I've read Dick's book cover to cover, love it, absolutely love it. If you took Dick's book, you took my book, and you put them together, and you say, what are the common denominators? What are the things that they both agree on, that they emphasize? 3 common denominators, and those 3 laws of civility are what I'm going to briefly talk about. And I'm going to use the word law because it's going to be an acronym, so it's easy to remember these 3 things. The first one with the A, third one with the L, then an A, and then a W. So let's talk about the first rule of civility I want to talk about. Listen with an open mind. And I'm going to share with you a story. I always want to give a TEDx talk, and when I was invited to do it, I was driving down to Sarasota to meet with my TEDx team for the first time. And they told me ahead of time that they've assigned a 20-year-old young girl, college student, to be my mentor to teach me how to give a speech here. Now, at this point, I'd already been a lawyer, litigator for 3 decades. I served 4 terms in Congress. I've given approximately 1,000 speeches. But on the way down, like a crazy person in my car, I said about 50 times, keep an open mind, keep an open mind, keep an open mind. I wanted there to be positive vibes when we met. Evelyn and I met that day and worked closely together for the next 6 weeks. Long story short, she gave me 9 suggestions, 9 things she wanted me to do differently in the speech. I accepted all 9 of her suggestions. And you know what? It's the single best speech I've ever given in my life. And that speech is the one that's 6th most watched in the world. And it's on the YouTube as The Power of Self-Deprecating Humor. It would not have been that way had not opened my mind and listened to what Evelyn had to say. So how did this apply to you? When you're having your conversations with people, political discussions, religion, whatever, if I could pick one word to have in the back of your mind, it's curiosity. Be curious. The most important thing you could say is tell me more. Tell me more about that. How'd you get to feel that way? What's that like for you? What's important about that to you? Ask those questions. Now, if civility and curiosity and open-mindedness is so important, why don't more people listen that way? And there's 3 big roadblocks that I have seen in my life. Number 1, that we all do and we shouldn't do, is we're thinking about what we're going to say next when the other person is talking. A second reason is when they're talking, we're not listening to understand, we're listening for the flaw so that we can use that and then talk them into our side. And then 3, sometimes we think that we're just an expert. There's nothing this person could do to shed light on this subject, so I'm just going to close my mind there. I would suggest to you to keep an open mind, and I would suggest to you that you need to define success differently. Success is not changing someone's political opinion. Success is understanding what that opinion is in the first place. Point number 1, listen with an open mind. Point number 2, with an A, act respectfully despite differences. I'm going to share a story with you. It's a big October surprise, October 2008. John McCain is up in a high school gymnasium in Minnesota on a cold day at a rally of his people. The election was pretty tight. And someone stood up and started trashing Obama. It was the height of the birther movement, as you may remember. And they said he wasn't born here. They said he's not a citizen. He's a terrorist, Arab, Muslim, can't be trusted. And McCain took back the microphone and he said, none of those things are true. None of them. He was born here. He is a citizen, not an Arab, Muslim terrorist. And there's nothing you to be scared of. He's a good family man and a U.S. senator. And he was booed overwhelmingly. And then someone else said something offensive. Once again, he defended Obama. He says, I'm not going to be disrespectful. I think I'm a lot better qualified, and that's why you should vote for me, but I'm not going to be disrespectful. He does have these qualities. They booed him over and over and over. Fast forward 10 years, John McCain dies. Now, at the time of his death, he had been a senator for 30 years. He'd been a GOP nominee. He'd also been a war hero. But on the day he died, the clip that the national TV networks ran over and over and over was that clip, that cold day in Minnesota when he was defending Obama. He said that was the defining moment of his career. And Obama is the one who gave his eulogy. Now, how do we apply these principles in our own lives? Well, as I said, when you have these conversations, we don't have to agree on everything or anything. We just have to act respectfully despite differences, right? Disagree better. So there's lots of do's and don'ts, but we're short on time. I'm just going to tell you the 3 biggest do's and don'ts in terms of acting respectfully despite differences, in my opinion. The don'ts. Don't roll your eyes. Don't question another person's motives. Don't hurl insults. Let me tell you the do's in order of importance, I think. Do make people feel seen. Do allow people to be heard. Do stand up for people on the other side of you when they were unfairly trashed by people on your side, which is what McCain did. So second point, act respectfully despite differences. Third and final point is the W. Wait 6 seconds to avoid an amygdala hijack. Now let me tell you what that means, then I'll give you an example through a story. If it was caveman days and you walked out of a cave and you saw a rainbow to the left that was beautiful, and to your right behind the leaves is a saber-toothed tiger, your body, this part called the amygdala, is looking out for the negative, the threats. It would immediately tell you that that saber-toothed tiger is there. In 1/10 of a second, it would tell you. And the amygdala takes over your body for about 6 seconds. It's there to save your life, right? It's where the fight or flight is and the emotion. Now, here's the problem. We haven't had saber-toothed tigers in America in 10,000 years. But the amygdala is still there in full force. And it is activated whenever you are threatened physically, verbally, or even your self-esteem. It's why we have road rage, 30 deaths a year. I was involved in 3 of them as a lawyer, so I'm more of an expert than I wanted to be on that. But what I learned is when you are provoked, it takes about 6 seconds for the chemicals in your amygdala to dissipate, and you become calm again. And so it's very, very important for you to just take a breather, take 3 breaths, and wait before responding. Now let me just give you a short example of that. Arthur Brooks is a Harvard professor, 2-time #1 New York Times bestselling author. Probably the happiest moment of my life as an author was when he wrote the blurb for my book and endorsed me. For those of you who want to see him, he'll be at Dr. Phillips next Thursday to give a talk. He's a great, great guy. The thing I like about him is not that he helped me or that he's a famous guy. What I liked about him is something he did before he became famous. He wrote his first book that wasn't really a bestseller. He was an unknown professor at Syracuse. And someone wrote to him. It was an email. And it said, I read your book, and I think you're a fraud. And chapter 1 is wrong. Chapter 2 is wrong. A to C, everything is wrong. And he got that. And it was like, man, you just tempted to sit there and write back what you're feeling in that emotional moment. But he said, no, I'm going to set it aside for a day. And he came back, and he wrote a response. And I'll paraphrase what he said. He said, I got your email. This is a book that I'm very proud of, that it took me 2 years to write. And not a lot of people have bought it. But you did something other people didn't. You went and paid money for this book. You spent time reading this book. You spent time writing me this book. You did something 99% of the people in this country didn't do. I just want to say thank you. Send. Within minutes, this guy writes back. He says, oh my God, I never thought this would actually make it to you. Next time you're in Dallas, I want to buy you a steak dinner. This one is on me. He still hated the book, but he liked Arthur Brooks. He created that climate where we can have an exchange that's normal and reasonable. And so what I would suggest to you in terms of how do you apply that to your life, in terms of this 6-second rule, it's pretty easy when someone texts or email you. Just walk away for a little bit. Don't do your response right away. Wait till the normal, rational comes back, and then do your response without a lot of adjectives. Now, what if it happens in person and you're right there? Someone cuts you off in traffic, or some ex writes you something inflammatory, try to bait you or something. Pause for 6 seconds. And the easiest way to do that is take 3 deep breaths. Or just ask them, anything else? I want to get it all out. Just pause for 6 seconds before you respond. If you do that, there's a very high likelihood that that person is going to respond favorably. But maybe not, because you can't control it. The only thing you can control 100% is your response. And I guarantee you, you are going to be happier. So wait 6 seconds. To wrap this up, the 3 rules of civility that Dick and I both preach: law, listen with an open mind, act respectfully despite differences, and wait 6 seconds before you respond. Now, as we leave today and we go out and promote civility, there's 3 buckets, 3 ways we can promote civility. There are elected officials, there is the media, and there's our own private communications, right? And we don't control elected officials, we don't control the media. You do control your own communications with people. And there is a ripple effect. And I would submit to you the things that you say in your words are a lot more powerful, and you're more powerful than you think. Those words have a deeper meaning. They affect more people, and they last longer. This ripple effect is incredibly important. You don't have to wait till your party is in control in Tallahassee or Washington or Orlando. You can act right now for this ripple effect. And I'm going to close by telling you why I'm so confident that this ripple effect is real and that you can make a difference. It's a personal story. It's a little hard for me to get through, so I'm going to try to do it. When I was 17 years old, I didn't have enough money to go to college. My mom was a single parent, raised 3 kids on the modest salary of a secretary. And she had a clever idea. She said, "Why don't you ask my boss if his company would make a charitable contribution?" So I went and met with Mr. Overstreet, 81 years old, president and CEO of Overstreet Investment Company. And this is what I told him. And I'm 17, my hands are shaking. I said, "Mr. Overstreet, I want to go to college so bad. I'm here today to ask your company to make a charitable contribution. And if you do, it won't be wasted. I'll graduate top of my class if your company would just give me a chance." And he said, "Son, I'm just the president of this company. The board makes a decision. They meet on Tuesday morning. Come back Tuesday afternoon. I'll let you know the answer." So the big day came, and I'm sitting in my chair waiting for him to come into the room to deliver the verdict. I haven't slept in almost 2 days. My hands are shaking, and he walks into the room, and I think to myself, my whole life turns on what happens in the next 30 seconds. He said, "Son, the board met, and they decided that they will not help you go to college. It's not personal, but if they did that for you, they'd have to do that for every other employee. The company's not set up for that." And I said, "Mr. Overstreet, I just want to say thank you. You went to bat for me, and you didn't have to go to bat for me, and you did." And as I was talking, it kind of hit me at that moment that I'm not going to be going to college, like my friends from more affluent backgrounds. And just tears started coming down my eyes. And he said, "Son, you can wipe the tears away." I said, "The company couldn't put you through college." I didn't say that I couldn't. And he wrote a check, and I was off to college. And 4 years later, I stood up on the stage as valedictorian and graduated first in my class. That got me a scholarship to Vanderbilt. Then I got elected to Congress, and then after 5 years, something unexpected happened. This unknown guy at the time, John Boehner, decides to run for leadership. And he was a long shot. I was the only one out of 27 members of Congress in the entire state that backed John Boehner. And he won unexpectedly. And he comes to me and he said, "What would you like, Rick?" And I said, "I would like to be chairman of the Higher Education Committee so I can repay the favor and help other kids go to college because someone helped me." And he handed me the gavel and says, "Congratulations, Mr. Chairman, go to it." I used that position to increase Pell Grant, which is financial aid, by 62%, and 5.5 million people got their chance to go to college. Mr. Overstreet's single act of kindness, 24 years later, had literally impacted over 5 million lives. This is what I take the lesson from Mr. Overstreet, and I think you should take too. Your one act of kindness can change someone's life. It might even change the world. So for God's sake, let's be civil to each other. Thank you.